good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to another episode of the Non-Identity podcast. Now, this week we're joined by an author whose book is coming out on June the 10th. It's Turning Trauma into Treasures. It's Asher. Hi, Asher. Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, Lee. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Appreciate the
Uh,
intro.
Before we get into your book, can you just let everyone know who you are and where you grew up and stuff?
Oh yeah, perfect. So I like the British accent, by the way. So if your audience a lot of British people, I'm a fan. I'm a fan, right? So I grew up in Jamaica. So I immigrated to the United States in 1998, and I joined the military United States Army in 1999. A few months after that, then I've been in the United States Army for 22 years. I retired last year, 2022. Took a
Sorry
year
to interrupt, I
sabbatical
just say
off.
thank you for your service.
Oh, of course, of course. I mean, I think the world deserves us to serve. You know what I mean? So I've been doing it for the service. But I've been in the military 22 years. I retired. I've been traveling the world a little bit, but I've been gone away from home. Haven't seen my family much while I was in the military. So last year when I retired, I took a year sabbatical. I kind of stayed home trying to repurpose my mindset, coming off of that, that warfare thinking to something different because I gotta heal myself too, right? So I took a year off, kind of wrote my first book, and my goal is to write 86 books by my 86th birthday. So
Oh,
that's my goal. Yeah, it's a major challenge. So I set it out where I said, Asher, you've done a lot in the military, so you can actually commit another 10 years of your life to yourself, like commit to you, right? So that's what I decided to do. Say, hey man, I don't want to do another government job. I want to work on me, do something for me that I find value in, different than the military. So that's what I'm doing. I'm committing myself to working on myself. So 86 book by my 86th birthday. So I have 85 more books to master the state of authorship. So I gave myself time. I got some time to work on being an author. So the first book I did is called Turning Traumas into Treasure, and it's really about how do I convert the stories that I've experienced over my lifetime. Some of them that are very traumatic. Some of them are very, some of them that I thought I was very awful, make them into treasure now. So I'm working on. I kind of find the language to do that, and that's what I'm working on right now. So I have a lot of goals, man. We can talk about those. I have a lot of them, but that's a
you
short version of my story.
you seem quite an upbeat person,
Yes.
but you obviously sound like you've experienced a lot of traumas in that environment you were in. How do you keep yourself so upbeat?
Whew, easy. It's easy. It's easy. What I do now is I did this thing that really set my mind free. So, I talk about the 86th book by my 86th birthday. So I asked myself, Ashley, if you're gonna leave planet Earth, when do you want to leave planet Earth? And I picked my 86th birthday. I said, I want to leave. If I'm gonna leave, I want to leave on my 86th birthday. So now that kind of set my mind free, like, hey, Asher, you're 43 years old. That means you got 43 more years to do your work on this planet. So instead of don't thinking that I don't have no time, I gave myself time. Because oftentimes we get up every day, we feel like we don't have time to do anything, right?
Yeah.
But I did that to kind of set my mind free. I don't know when I'm gonna go. I think we all leave on cue. We came on cue. So when it's time to go, you gonna go. And if I die before my 86th birthday, I won't know because I won't be here to experience it, right? So that's kind of set my mind free. So now when it comes to the story that I've experienced over my lifetime, I realize that those are actually gifts because I consider myself a student of the original university, which is the universe. So what I find myself that I have now, I have a what I call a PhD and a PhB, a philosophy in doing and a philosophy in being. So I have the wisdom to be me and to do the work I want to do. So I figure that the stuff that I've experienced over the lifetime, going to the university of the universe, I've given me the skill set, the experience to turn things into something more valuable. So I don't look at my past, the things that I went through in my life that I felt it was a disadvantage for me, or I felt it wasn't fair for me, and so forth. I consider it a gift, and now I get to convert it into something that's treasure for other people. Because if I can find value in it, other people can find value in it too. Because not only that, a lot of people are experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing, and they just don't have the language to describe or define it. And if I can find ways to help them with that language, then they can define their or describe their own reality a little bit different. And one of the things that I did for myself is in 2016, I went on this challenge for myself because I grew up, I didn't know I was ADD, I didn't know I was dyslexic. I was having a lot of those challenges, right? I didn't know what they really mean until I was doing a little study. I was like, man, oh my God, this is why life's so hard for me. Right. This is why stuff was so difficult. So I went on this challenge, and this challenge was to read and listen to 100 books a year in 2016, and 1,000 books in 10 years. So now I was pursuing finding a language to help me define and describe my own reality. Because growing up, I didn't have the language to describe my reality. I was using what I was used to, and some of those language wasn't empowering. It was disempowering. So once I discovered some of these great language to really define my own reality, my life started to make a lot more sense.
Did you, growing up, because obviously you didn't understand what he's going through, did you feel like a lot of people um, was trying to hold you down? Because I'm dyslexic, but I weren't diagnosed when I was 16, and I've managed to keep a career in education, teaching in education, because I find different ways. I don't call them disabilities, I call them barriers. So I just find a different way around the barrier. But when I was at school, because it was a diagnosis, I was just accused of being the lazy writer or the person who couldn't be bothered or the person who didn't want to sit there and learn the grammar. It's not I didn't want to, I just didn't understand it. Even today, I rely heavily on autocorrection. And if you look at some of my titles on YouTube, there is spelling mistakes because I believe autocorrection, which ain't always right, but I don't know any different. And I found when I was a child, it people, because it wasn't diagnosed or anything like that, and people weren't understanding. And like you said, I couldn't express myself to say I'm actually struggling. It sort of made childhood a bit hard and a bit on a downer, really, because I just felt like the world was against me because I couldn't get what I needed to get. People were telling me I was lazy. People were telling me I couldn't be bothered. So it just made me feel like the world was against me. Did you find that with yourself, or?
Oh yes. So, but there was one thing that I was naturally gifted at. I was a people person, meaning that I was very charming. I fit in very well with people, but what was my challenge was my creativity. I couldn't express it properly because everything was taught in a certain symbols and language that my brain didn't really function well in. So when it comes to really like dictating things in the language that everybody was using, I wasn't able to do it. But energetically, I can do it based on my energy. I can be around people, make them feel great because that was my charismatic energy. I had that. I was able to do that. But when it comes to the book work or the structure of the institution, I wasn't able to follow it because they was using language that my brain didn't really master that easy. But it took me a while to really learn how to really operate in that environment, fit myself in, and didn't really and stop. Because I mean, there was a lot of insecurities. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of insecurities because everybody's operating a certain way and you was not able to operate the same way. Then you feel like you wasn't worthy enough of that place that you was trying to hold on to. And that kind of creates a lot of insecurities, and you make you feel like you wasn't enough to operate in that same scene or flexing that same status. But as far as later on in the years, I realized that I had a skill set that a lot of people don't have, right? Which is I know to relate to people very well. I can. I just didn't. My communication was different. So here's 3 areas of my life I'm trying to master right now. So what I call your thinking vocabulary, your writing vocabulary, and your speaking vocabulary. I am very confident in my thinking vocabulary. I'm a very deep thinker. I know this about myself. I always felt like I was a great thinker. Now, when it comes to writing, like I wasn't good at writing. I sucked at it. My grammar sucks. All of that sucks, right? I couldn't master the rules of the English language. I didn't learn it well in school. It took me a long time to figure it out. Long time. Into my adult years, that took me a long time to figure it out. So now I'm working on that right now. That's why I gave myself 86 books to figure out my creativity around writing because I know I got a lot of ideas. I'm pretty good at it. I'm very creative. I know this about myself. But then explaining that to other people in the language that people understand, that wasn't my gift. Right. So I'm learning that right now. And then my speaking vocabulary, right? That one took me a long time to work on because I speak very fast because I got a lot of energy, so I get very excited. So then my word doesn't come out right, doesn't flow properly. So I had to learn how to really speak slower and explain my words, express it a little bit differently. Because growing up, I didn't do a lot of reading, right? So therefore, I didn't pronounce word properly because I didn't see him. I want to hear him. And based on how people pronounce him, that's how I pronounce him too. And oftentimes I grew up in Jamaica, right? We learn English, but we speak something else. So so that means that when it comes to English, right? I didn't really value the rules or the grammar rules of the English language until I had to use them later on when I moved to America. I'm like, man, I didn't pay attention to these things, but no, they're necessary. I don't know them. I gotta learn them now. I gotta spend a lot of time learning them. But that took me on a journey, man. It took me on a real journey where I really had to think about my thinking. And I think when I think about my thinking, I think about my belief system, because my belief system is what I used to process the experience of my reality through. And if my belief system is something that I used to disempower myself, then my life gonna feel like it doesn't have a lot of power. So I had to challenge myself. So when I went on this 100 book challenge, this 1,000 book challenge, I realized that I'm discovering language to really define and describe reality. One of my favorite quotes is by Desmond Tutu, if you know about him. And his quote is, language is very powerful. Language does not just describe reality. Language creates the reality it describes. So when you start tapping into the proper language to define and describe reality, then the reality becomes a different experience than the one you're used to based on the language you used to describe defining that first. Does that
No,
make sense?
exactly. So, with going into being an author, like you said, you're a people person, but to be a people person, obviously you need the people around you. You can like then read the room and know how to react. When you're putting it on paper, you need to make a connection with a load of people, but only one list of language. How have you found that when you're writing your book?
Okay. So I created something what I call for myself. I call them the 5C complex. I wrote about it in the book. But what it really means is you got to figure out the people that you want to emulate, you want to study. I call them my top 1% club members. So I pick a bunch of people that I saw that really master the three areas, right? The thinking vocabulary, the speaking vocabulary, and the writing vocabulary. I find people that are really like, some people are really good at all three of them. Some are good at all two. Some can think very well and write very well. Some can think and speak very well, and some can do all three. So I find those people, I put them on a list, and I look for all their books, all the content out there. I go read it, listen to it, and I figure out how the hell these guys do it. So the 5C complex, meaning that you collect, right? And then you copy, then you use, then you create, and then you use what you create to give you more clarity on your purpose and your meaning in life. And then you celebrate. So those things, what I use to kind of really help me figure out how do I become a better author. And that really helps me. So now I find those people content and I use what they did. I copy it. And sometimes people say, don't copy me. And it make you feel some kind of like, oh, you copy me. But no, we're like, the baby in us never die. We are great at copying. It's one of the reasons why the human species dominate the planet this way, because they're good at copying, right? So I do the copying, and then that helps me figure out how do I write stories. But now these guys are able to figure out how they translate their creativity to stories. And I'm learning from them. So that's what I do to figure out how to write books from people that are doing it.
And when it comes to the writing process, do you like set yourself like, I'm going to write for an hour today, an hour tomorrow, or do you lock yourself away for a week and then give yourself a break? How do you keep that creativity going? Because obviously you hear about a lot of authors getting into writer's block and stuff. So how do you prevent that for you?
Okay, so I don't think I have writer's block. And this is the reason why I don't have writer's block. So I will listen to the same people, right? So one of the person I listen to, his name is John Maxwell. And this guy put out a lot of books, like a lot of books, like frequently putting out books. But I heard him say one thing that really helps me to figure out how to organize my thinking. And he was saying that he reads a lot of books and he takes a lot of notes. And he structures and organizes notes into different folders, so on. You just take a lot of notes. So I do the same thing when I'm reading a lot of books and something jumps out at me, smack me off my face. I'm like, oh my God. So I write it down, right? So the same thing I do. So that therefore I always have ideas to go back and think through. Okay, I'm writing and I get to an area like I don't know how to explain this thing. But I remember I got notes. I got a lot of notes. I got Google documents for days, right? Of tough stuff I've taken notes on. So I go back in there. I'm like, I search for maybe the words that I'm writing about, or the content I'm writing about, and I find something that's similar to it, and I reframe it. And the reframing helps me to really kind of keep the thing flowing. And I also discovered something else. Listen to another author that does a lot of books. He put out like a book every 3 months, whatever. His name is Dan Sullivan. He's a founder of Strategic Coach. So he was saying that what he did to kind of keep his creativity going is that he used some of Shakespeare words. So what he do is just rewrite Shakespeare words, just write them, get his brain used to writing Shakespeare stuff. And because he does that, his brain get used to writing in a simple context like Shakespeare does. I'm like, oh my God, that makes a lot of sense. So now I start using the same thing process, not with Shakespeare, but with other authors that I admire the stuff they wrote. And I rewrite this stuff. I write it. And eventually my brain get used to it. So now I can reframe it into the language that resonate with me. And now I can just keep writing. So I don't really get writer's block.
Brilliant. So you said, obviously, one of your goals is the 86 books by the age of 86 years old. What's some of the other goals you've got?
Oh, so one of my other goals is, Shakespeare himself, right? He invented over 1,700 words or phrases over the 52 years he's been on the planet. Yeah. I'm going after that too. I figure I'm gonna go create some new words too. So one of my goals is by the time I leave this planet, I create more than Shakespeare did with new words, new phrases.
Have you got any you can share with us now?
Okay, so I'll give you one. So one of them that I talk about in the book, well, in people said in life, you gotta treat people equally, and that's impossible. You can't treat everybody. We're not equal, right? So we're not. So what I create was a word that kind of bridged the two, right? So I think we're unique physically, and we're equal spiritually. Yeah. So that makes us unequal. So I'm gonna treat you uniquely, right? Because you're unique, right? You're unequal. So that's kind of where I used to kind of bridge the two. So now when somebody says, Asher, treat me equally, I say, I can't treat you equally because we're not the same. Like you're unique differently, like body differently, like the content of our mind is different. All of that stuff is different because we're capturing different content. So you're unique physically, but equal spiritually. So that makes you unique. So that's one of my latest words on creating a new word.
I like that one. So with obviously, like I said, I work in education with young people. So we've got like policies of equal opportunities, and the way we define that is trying to treat everyone the same, but recognising everyone's different. And that's our sort of mandate to work with the young people, and it comes under the thing of equal opportunities. But just putting to one word like you did there is perfect. So I really like that one. So I start nicking that one. I start using that in my classroom.
Yeah. I'm glad I like it. Treat me uniquely, right? Yeah. That's how I want to be treated. Treat me uniquely, right? Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to write 86 books. You're going to rewrite the dictionary. What's another goal?
There's another one that I was thinking about because I have an online life coaching business, Life Changing Wisdom. And I started this. I have a podcast, so I'm working on. I'm building it now. And I'm trying to use it as a platform, as a repository for where people can really go listen to content, that have a conversation with themselves. And if you ever heard about Earl Nightingale, right? You heard of Earl Nightingale? Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay. So when it comes to the personal development industry, he's one of the pioneers for it. When it comes to audio recording, he was one of the first one that sold 1 million copy of just personal development audio recording. So you can look him up. This guy is he's a legend, right? But he was one of the, I love his voice. He has one of that radio voice is like this amazing. So my goal is that I want to be as gifted auditorily as this guy was. So my goal is I want to be even better than he did. So I intend to practice my skill set as far as how do I read content, because the beauty about him, right? People see him as a real public speaker, but it's funny because one of the guy that he mentored, the name is Joe Weldon. He's my public speaking coach. And he was telling me about the story about Earl Nightingale. It was like, hey, many people, they listen to Earl, think he was one of those guys that can speak, but he a guy that he read his script. He read a lot of script. So when you listen to his content, you think he's just speaking from the heart, but he's scripting it. But he do it so smooth, you can even tell he's reading it. So I was like, oh my God, but he had this amazing voice. I'm like, man, most people I talk to say, Asher, they say, Asher, I like your voice. It's very smooth. It's very comforting. So I'm like, okay, so now I can use that and capitalize on that. But I want to be as gifted or even better auditorily than Earl Nightingale. So that's one of my other goals. So I'm going after Shakespeare goal. I'm going after Earl Nightingale goal as far as being auditory gifted.
One thing I really like from what you're saying, and again, this goes back to what I'm trying to teach young people about growth mindset, is you learn from someone who's good at something, and then you set the goal being better. So a lot of people like it's just, when you see someone that's really good at something, you tend to get jealous. You're like, I look at them, they're really good at that. But no, it's changing. It's what can I learn from them, and then how can I do it better? And it seems like you're focusing on that and I really love that attitude and that mindset, because that's the mindset I try and pump to our young people. When you see someone that's good at something, don't think, oh, they're good at it, so I'm just going to leave it. No, learn from them and be better. And that's exactly what you're saying. So it's brilliant stuff.
And what's even important about what you're saying too, right? Because oftentimes you recognize yourself in other people. You see yourself in them.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody that has a gift, you're like, wow, I admire that gift. What that's telling you is that that gift is also in you, and you also need to master that gift. So so right now I consider myself a helper, right? So in the book I talk about the 8 major state of consciousness, and one of those is what I call helpership. And the person that introduced me to this state is my great grandmother, right? She was the most helpful person I know in my entire life. Now I would think to myself that I'm here to carry on a work, but it's not really that. She was the person that the universe makes sure that I was aligned with, so she can remind me what my purpose in life is supposed to be. So now when I think about, so at this age, I recognize, I really realize what my purpose in life is. So I know what it is now. But when I come to the realization, she was one of the person that I thought about as an example of what that state looked like. I made the master. So now I know what it is. I've seen the example in other people. So now I'm gonna master it. So I'm here to master the major state. I made a master is the state of helpership. The minor state to that one is the state of authorship. So now I'm majoring in the state of, like you go to college, you gotta major in your minor. I got my major on minor now. I know what it is. So I'm gonna minor in authorship and I'm major in the state of helpership. So those two gonna align together so I can do my work on this planet. So I say I have 43 years to do my work. And if I get to 86 and my body's strong and everything, my mind is healthy and everything, I'm gonna renegotiate for another decade or two, right? But
Yeah.
I get to take control of my journey and I focus on the thing. One of my other favorite guys called Neville Goddard, right? You probably heard of Neville Goddard. And he had one thing. He said, you got to start with the end in mind. And when I first heard that, I was thinking a bunch of different things. But what it really means to me was, what I realized was, you got to start with end in mind. That means you got to figure out what's your end. What's your destination? Then you got a backward plan from that destination. So now I say, hey, I got 43 years to do my works. So if the things I want to do, if I backwards plan it for 43 years, I have a lot of time, right? A whole lot of time to accomplish it. So now I give myself time. So now when I'm thinking about the things I want to do, I have a lot of patience, right? Because what the challenge a lot of people have these days, they want to do everything fast, right? They're in a rush. I'm like, if the things I want to do, yes, if the things I want to do right now, if they happen to me right now, if all that stuff show up to me right now, then what? Right? I won't feel good. I won't feel excited because like I got them all. Then what? Right? I want to experience them on the journey towards them. So I want to take the time, move like a turtle. You said move like a turtle pace, so I can see what's going on with me, experience the experience while I'm journeying to the destination. So I start with anyway. So I got a 43-year plan. By the way, a 43-year plan. That's what my vision, the 43-year vision. So I have plenty of time. I have the patience to sit there and wait for the thing to come to me that I want to put into this plan to make it happen.
I've seen some stuff with Tyson Fury, the boxer, and he suffers a lot with his mental health. And he says he's at his lowest point, like the night after he won the world title, because he's been training to get there, didn't got it. And like you said, what's next? And like you look at all these really successful business people, and again, they don't stop. You think, well, they can stop now because they've got all this money and stuff. But for them, again, it's the what's next. Like Elon Musk, he built Tesla. He was set for life. But what's he gone into? He's gone into building space rockets. He's gone into buying Twitter, because I can't imagine once you get to that where you want to get to, like you said, if you've then got loads more time on the earth, you'll come crashing down because you've achieved your highest achievement. So the fact that you give yourself 43 years, that keeps you going and going, because you know you haven't reached your end point. So that in a way keeps you mentally going, because you think, I've not got there yet. I've not got there. And I think that's a great plan to have.
Oh, 100%. You're on it, bro. You're on it. And the thing is, what a lot of people like these days, I'm trying to, when I'm coaching and I'm talking to people, like these two big questions I kind of ask them to is like what do you want, right? Because this is a very hard question to answer. Like you ask somebody, what do they want? They don't really know, right? They think they want something because they didn't have it, right? But they don't really need it, right? And the second question is,
if you didn't have it, how do you know you want it? Because you never had it in the first place. So
yes. So when you ask them what they want, they're gonna give you a bunch of answers. But then when you think about it really deeply, right? You're like, okay, so well, the thing you want, like, okay, but what is really worth wanting, right? What is worth wanting? And if the thing you say you want, if I give it to you, what are you gonna do with it once you have it?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes they don't know because you haven't thought that far. So you want $1 million, I give you $1 million. No, then what? What you gonna do with it?
Exactly.
You haven't thought that far, right? You just want it. So just the wanting alone is not enough. You gotta think about what you're gonna do with that thing once you have it. And is that thing really worth wanting? Because if it's not worth wanting, you're gonna put yourself through a lot of things that when you get to it, it's like, wow, I did all of that for this, right? So then you gotta really know, like, is it worth wanting? And if it's worth wanting, then it doesn't matter what it's gonna cost you to get to, you're gonna do it. Because I tell you what, right? So I was when I was around like 2016, right? I was working probably around 12, 13 hours a day. I was in the military. I was working long hours, right? But I was going to school and I was studying things that was dulling me out. I wasn't getting charged up. I wasn't excited about what I was studying. I was like, I'm stopped. I was like one class away from a bachelor. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to school anymore. So I decided just gonna read a list of books. But that really sparks me. So now I was on this journey because I was looking in the future. I was like, this is what I want to change about myself. I want to do it. And literally, I'm telling you, I only sleep about 3 to 4 hours a night for like 5, 6 years, bro. That's how many sleep I was getting. People didn't notice. So I go to bed and I wake up 3 hours later and I'm reading and listening to books early in the morning. So my normal wake up time is 2 a.m. 2 a.m. in the morning, right? That's been my wake up time. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm up, listening to books. But I always put myself through it because I realized that what was worth wanting. I wanted to change my mindset, to recondition my mind. So when I get out of this state I'm in right now, I can repurpose myself into something different. And it cost me a lot, but I was willing to pay the price because it was worth wanting. It was worth having. But if I did all that for something that wasn't worth having, I would be miserable. Like, what if I put myself to this thing for this? No, right? So people need to know what they want, and they ask themselves, "Is this thing I want worth wanting?" Because they say you can take a horse to the water, but you can't force him to drink.
Exactly.
But then you can make that horse thirsty,
Right.
and when you take him to the water, you ain't gonna force him to drink. So guess what? I make myself very thirsty. So when I get to the water, I was ready to drink. So I have a big appetite for learning. I didn't have that growing up, but now I do because I put myself through that process.
Do you think your military training sort of helps you discipline to have that structure to do that? Does that play a part in, because I know some people here who've left the military and the discipline still helps them with their daily routines and stuff. Does that help keep you focused, or did you uncondition yourself from the military?
Oh, it did. It did 100%. It kept me disciplined because this is why I told myself that if I can give the military 22 years of my life, right, with that much discipline, I can give myself at least 10 years with that same discipline. I can really make a big difference. So that's what I'm doing. I'm committing for the next 10 years. I'm working on things I'm working on, and I won't stop until this thing works. Like I won't end up on the street, right? I know I won't because sometimes one of my biggest fear was, Asher, if this thing doesn't work, will you end up homeless? I'm like, no, I won't. My family's too big, and I got too many friends. So there's always gonna be somebody couch I can crash on to work on my stuff, and my family they're gonna take me in. So that put the fear away from me. Like, no, Asher, you're gonna be all right, man. You can go take the risk on the things you want to do, and once it becomes successful, then people gonna like, oh my god, I'm glad you did it, Asher, because now I can see the vision too. But I give myself 10 years to figure it out. 10 years to make sure it work. And I know it's gonna work because I'm too disciplined not to make this work.
No, exactly. Love that attitude. Um, do you know? Because obviously you said the book's coming out on the 10th of June. Do you know what platform? Is it like Amazon, or where will people be able to get hold of it?
Yeah, so I self-published my book. I did it through Amazon, so it's gonna be on Amazon mainly. And I'm building my website. It's called demidivine.com. It's gonna be just gonna be specialized for the books because all my books I'm gonna put them on there. It's gonna be
Okay.
repository for all my books. And www.lifechangingwisdom.com is my coaching website because I consider myself a wisdom coach because wisdom is my highest value.
Yeah.
And I go after things through the lens of wisdom. And wisdom means application. I'm coming from an organization that does a lot of doing. Military, we do stuff, right? So I'm used to doing. So all I need is a recipe that works, and I will activate that experience in myself because I'm gonna do it. Or however hard it is, I'm gonna do it. And with that kind of discipline and that kind of focus, I'm like, okay, actually, you can work on something for yourself. a lot of people can do the same thing too. Like whatever it is you're doing, like if you just give yourself time, the big thing about it is give yourself time. Because before I was like, man, I'm looking ahead, but I'm looking at I gotta get this tomorrow, next week, whatever. I give myself decades.
Yeah.
That automatically transitioned my energy from like you got time. Actually, you got a lot of time. And if it doesn't happen, you won't be here to regret it because you won't be here, be gone.
Exactly. And if anyone wants to get to any of them sites, the links will be in the description below. We're coming to the end of the interview, so I've got one last question, and this is a question that I ask every guest. Your answer won't change your life journey so far, but if you had 30 seconds with your 13-year-old self, what would you say?
Man, I would tell him to listen to his parents. Listen to his parents and get connected to his culture and his ancestors, but listen to his parents. Yeah.
Well, Asher, it's been a fantastic time. Thank you so much for giving up your time. And I'd love for you to come back on in a couple of months once the book's out and stuff like that. We'll go more in depth about things. But thank you so much for your time.
All right, Lee. Appreciate your time as well, brother. Take care.